Hi friends, welcome back. This is chapter 8. When we left off yesterday, or whenever you watched this video, the kids went back to Pete's house and were trying to kind of figure out if someone else had been there. And we found out that, remember that shirt was kind of, it didn't seem like the right size. And now when they go back to check it out, the shirt is gone. So here is where we left off yesterday, and we're gonna have to figure out who has been there. Chapter 8. I wonder who took it, Dink said. Ruth Rose climbed the steps and knocked on the door. Anyone in there? She called out. The trailer remained silent. Pal sniffed the ground near the chair, then began whimpering. Whimpering is a synonym for whining. It's the noise that dogs kind of make to cry or show something that's kind of bothering them. He sat facing the trailer and wagged his tail. Pal smells someone, Josh said. Should we wait around, Dink asked. I can't think of anything else to do, Ruth Rose said, sitting on an aluminum step. The game is canceled, Mr. Pocket's baseballs are missing, and Pete's in jail. Suddenly, the trailer door burst open. A boy appeared with a wild look in his eyes. He resembled Pete Unkenholtz, only a lot younger. His blonde hair was messed up and he was wearing the flannel shirt. What do you mean Pete's in jail? The kid demanded. Pal let out a low bark. Hush, Pal, Josh said. Ruth Rose was so startled she jumped off the steps. Who are you? She stammered. When your voice kind of does that little stutter, that's what it means to stammer. So the boy has taken her by surprise. The boy shook his head. You first. Who are you guys? Dink took a step toward the boy. I'm Dink, and these are my friends Josh and Ruth Rose, he said. The boy studied the group. I saw you at the game, he said, raking a hand through his hair. I'm Buddy, Pete's brother. Is he really in jail? Why? The Cubs think he stole some valuable baseballs, Josh said. Buddy just stared with his mouth open. The baseballs in that glass case, he said. Pete showed them to me before the game started, but he didn't take them. My brother wouldn't steal a penny. But he confessed, Dink said. Buddy came through the door and flung himself down on the top step. He must be lying for me so the cops won't think I stole the balls. Dink stared at Buddy. He looked around 14 years old. His eyes were red, as if he had been crying. Did you take them? Dink asked. Buddy shook his head. Heck no, he muttered. He swallowed and took a deep breath. But Pete must think I did. Why would he think that? Ruth Rose asked. And there is his brother, his 14-year-old brother. And he's saying, no, he didn't take them. Remember, the kids had kind of already suspected that maybe Pete was covering for someone. So Pete must have thought that his brother had taken them, which is why he confessed to it. But his brother is saying, no, he didn't take them. So when Ruth Rose asked, why would he think that? Because I was teasing him before the game, Buddy said. We were both looking at the balls, and I said something stupid like, I'll bet we could get a lot of money for these. Buddy looked up. It was just a joke. Pete's fun to tease, he said. Anyway, I saw Pete leave the game to go after his medicine. When he didn't come back, I went inside to see if he was okay, but Pete wasn't there. The glass case was busted and the balls were missing. I figured Pete must have thought I stole them and came back to the trailer looking for me. So I ran back, but Pete wasn't here. Officer Fallon picked up Pete in his truck, Dink said. That's when your brother said he took the balls. Yeah, to keep me out of trouble, Buddy muttered, just like he did before we left Maine. What happened in Maine? Ruth Rose asked Buddy. Something really dumb, Buddy said. He stared into the trees that surrounded the clearing. Pete and I lived together because our folks died in a car crash a few years ago, Buddy said. Ever since then, I keep messing up and Pete keeps trying to get me out of trouble. Buddy scooted down the steps and reached out to pet Pal. The dog licked Buddy's hand and rolled over on the ground. Last winter, I was hanging out with my friend Fizzo, Buddy said. Pete doesn't like Fizzo. Says he's a bad influence on me. Anyway, it was cold and we saw this delivery van in the alley next to Sugar's Bakery. The engine was running, and Fizzo said, "Let's sit in it to get out of the cold." We sat there for a few minutes, smelling the warm bread. Next thing you know, Fizzo's driving the van. Buddy looked up at Dink, Josh, and Ruth Rose. "It was just supposed to be a joke on Mr. Sugar," he said. "Fizzo wanted to park the van around the corner for laughs. Only the road was icy and the van slid into a snowbank. Fizzo got out to try to shove us free. I slipped behind the wheel to put the van in reverse. That's when the police came and we got busted." "So Pete didn't take the van?" asked Ruth Rose. "No way," Buddy shouted. "I told you, my brother's the most honest guy in the world." Buddy stroked Pal's silky ears. "Anyway, Fizzo and I are at the police station, scared to death," he continued. "I called Pete and told him what happened. 5 minutes later, he came flying into the police station." Buddy shook his head. "I still can't believe what happened next. Pete lied, probably for the first time in his life. He told the police officers he was the one who drove the van into the snowbank. Pete said the whole thing was my idea. I took the van, not my little brother and Fizzo." The three kids just stared at Buddy. When they asked Pete to explain why only Fizzo and I were in the van, Pete said he panicked and ran. Buddy went on. "They believed us. Then Fizzo's folks came to get us and Pete sat in jail overnight." Buddy scratched Pal's belly and the dog let out a big sigh. "Don't you see? Pete's lying for me again," Buddy said. "I don't know who took those baseballs, but it wasn't me, and it sure wasn't Pete." So again, we have found a lot of things about Pete's character. We've been talking about characters during Character Study Week, and it's always interesting. Sorry, I feel a little tickle in my nose. It's always interesting to think about character traits when you're learning more about a character. And they use the word honest for Pete quite a bit in this chapter, because they said that Pete would never tell a lie unless he were protecting someone. So he is very protective of his little brother. And you can kind of imagine that. They've been on their own. Their parents died in a car accident, and Pete's been taking care of them both. So Pete didn't stop to think twice to kind of cover for his brother. So we're learning a lot about Pete and his character. What we still don't know at this point is who actually took the baseballs. So right now, the only suspect they have is Pete. So we're going to have to see where our story goes from here. Until next time, friends, I will see you soon.